Hey, how you doing? I've wanted to make this video for quite a while, and I've given it some thought, and a lot of it is because I've gotten increasingly annoyed getting in and out of so many different cars, modern cars. This is about the two biggest problems with modern vehicles. Number one, and I think a lot of people are going to relate to this, cost. Not only cost to buy, but cost to keep long term. So here it goes. I was thinking to myself when I was younger and growing up, at about 16 or 17, in America at least, you're kind of born and bred into the idea that, well, you got to work hard, you got to go to school, and if you go to school and work hard, you can have a good job where you can make a lot of money to buy shit. Well, at 16 and 17, it was like, okay, I was kind of buying into that. By the time I was 20 and realizing how much I was struggling, not only to pay for my own place, for school, taking out loans, barely surviving, looking at my shopping cart and realizing I can only afford $50 worth of groceries, the idea of buying a even $15,000 car at the time was absolutely hysterical. And I think that is why so many the younger generation these days looks at a car and is like, no thanks. Because a vehicle like this, a family vehicle, let's just say I met my mistress and she said, well, you know what, I need a family car for the kids. And we go to sign the paperwork and the guy's like, oh yeah, this is $42,000. I would probably go through $300 worth of underwear shitting myself because I cannot fathom how anybody can afford this in this modern day and age, being in your 20s or 30s without being in such great debt. The concept of spending $40,000 on a car that's really an appliance these days, with looking at over $500 to $600 a month car payments, is just an absolute joke. Now, let's say you're somebody that is okay with that. You make enough money somehow in your early to mid 20s and 30s to have a couple cars or even this. What about keeping it long term? Fixing it, or any modern car for that fact. So that's why a guy like Turbowski's so burned out at looking at cars. You see people coming into a local shop after a car's out of warranty, after about 5 to 7 years. People bring it in to him and they say, why does this cost so much to repair?
Last night, police say a man had his car here at the Latino's auto shop, and when he came to check on its progress, he didn't like the service he was getting, so he stabbed the mechanic in the chest and then took off on his bicycle.
They have to take out a small loan. They're in debt to fix their own car because most 90% of the buying public doesn't understand that all the shit that is in modern cars, all the technology, the touch screens, the LCD screens, the sensors, the cameras, the blind spot monitoring, all the tech that's getting packed in here, when it breaks, it's going to put people in a position where they're either not going to be able to afford it or they're going to go in debt to fix it. On to the second biggest problem with modern cars, and I brought Scott in for this, even though I probably should have brought you in on the first part in terms of cost. Number two, and it's number two for a reason, technology.
It's the best part.
It's the worst part.
No way.
You look at a modern vehicle these days, and you take a look at how much they're trying to pile into it. Now, technology can be a good thing, and we know that for a fact because you look at a modern cell phone and all the things you can do on it without being tethered to a laptop, a desktop computer. You can do all that now, mobile. We're more connected. It makes us safer as a society in some ways.
Until you're driving and you plow into somebody.
Exactly the point. So, manufacturers have decided that they're going to create safety systems or driver's aids to help everybody be a little bit safer. Crash mitigation, so you don't accidentally run into the person in front of you, which I've done, even admittedly, I've done that in the past. Blind spot monitoring, 360 cameras, all of these systems to kind of keep you safe. But then the best part is the manufacturers go and add a lot of the problems back that cell phones give and put it built into the cars. Touch screens that you have to take your hands off the wheel to interact with. They put apps on here now, like Yelp. I can go on here and search for a restaurant while I'm driving. I mean, there's so many things that make zero sense to why they would put this stuff on here, but they do. And they do it so they have an excuse to make more technology, to save you and sell you more stuff from the very items they've created to distract you. And that's how consumerism, that's how capitalism works. You know, if you're going to create the problem, you could also create the solution. And that's the hidden part of all the technology in cars that is just so bogus. The second part is the tech that they're putting in here, namely the infotainment. I've talked to almost every manufacturer when I hear a sales or marketing, spiel about them is, I play the consumer advocate perspective. I ask, what is the plan to update the software on these cars over the course of the life cycle, which is usually 4 to 5 years? And 9 out of 10 times, they tell me absolutely nothing. They are not committed to providing updates for this stuff. So imagine taking your cell phone you bought today and keeping it for 7 years, how bad it would be. That's exactly what's going to happen in cars. And why a lot of the technology they're putting in these modern cars is a total scam. And it's really bad for the consumer because a lot of people are oblivious to that. So what you get today, you're stuck with. And there's a lot of cars that I'm getting into. It's not like the old cars where you go and turn your heating and cooling on with physical controls. It's tied into the touchscreen. It's tied into the infotainment. So when that goes bad, you lose a lot of the core functions of your cars. You can't just take this out and replace it with something else. It's so embedded into the system. And it's really scary and it's really sad. It's a sad state to see the cost, and not only the cost, but just how archaic all this stuff's going to get. And it turns these cars into more throwaway items. It's very wasteful. So in the future, I continue to press a lot of these manufacturers I talk to about committing to keeping these vehicles updated in terms of technology over the course of the life cycle. Because I hate to see people constantly turning over cars every 3 years, having to get rid of them or keeping them and getting stuck with these massive repair bills on all this shit that they did not know about from the very start. So there you have it, my 2 least favorite things about modern vehicles.